This is an alert. Special breaking news report. We go now live to Ferc Polo in the studio. That's right, folks. It's me, Ferc Polo. Now, you'll have to forgive me. I'm just getting over a cold, so my voice isn't what it usually is. You'll have to deal with it, and, we're going to watch a video about the chemical release at Wacker Polysilicon. Now, I've been waiting to watch this video since it dropped because I was sick. Recently got married, and when I got back, wife was sick. As soon as she got better, I got it. It worked out just right. So, terrific. Hooray. Great. Hooray. Woo. Woo. Scotty doesn't know the field and me. That's not what Apparently, I've broken my soundboard. All right, well, we don't have the soundboard today. I don't know what I just did here. Okay, back to the show. So apparently I don't have my soundboard today for some reason. That's okay. That's a shame, but it's okay. Should I try one more time? See? No? Ah, darn. Well, it's all right. I'll fix it. So we don't need the soundboard. What we're going to do is we're going to watch the chemical release at Wacker Polysilicon. I've been waiting for this. This is a new USCSB video. If you don't know, these dudes release the hottest content. This stuff is fire. By far the most useful government body. Elon, this is to you. Do not touch the USCSB. Leave them alone. Give them additional money. Remember, this group is good. Why? Because... Listen, Autobots, the important thing about a non-regulatory organization like the USCSB is that they're able to come out and actively and accurately advise plants on the true issues that cause their safety malfunctions. When you have an organization with true regulatory capacity that can force these companies to follow the rules, the problem is they will bribe you. And when they bribe you, you stop making them follow the rules. So now RFK is here to take care of that. We hope, we hope that goes on. We'll see how it happens. The most important thing here is we got a new USCSB video, guys. Let's do it. Audio looks like it's good. Let's do this. I was like, I haven't seen this yet. I have no idea what happened at Wacker Polysilicon yet. Let's try.
November 13th, 2020. Wacker Polysilicon, North America, in Charleston, Tennessee. One worker was killed and two others were seriously injured.
This guy actually sounds better. The last video, he was, two were seriously injured and one of them was like, I'm glad to hear that this guy sounds better. I love, dude, their 3D has gotten so wild. Whoever's over at the USCSB, please hear this. You are doing God's work. I've been watching these videos for years and they were always hilarious with the 3D, but the new stuff, it is, chef's kiss, wild. Should I put up the logo? You know what? The USCSB has never done me wrong before. They've never done me wrong before. So I think we're going to be okay here in watching the video without the watermark. USCSB, apologies ahead of time. Give me 1 second. I gotta close the door. One moment. All right. Okay, sorry about that. Got a bad back. All right, anyway. Don't get in car accidents, people. They're not good. They'll, even if they're no fault of your own, try to avoid them.
When attempting to escape a hydrogen chloride gas release, an additional worker was injured from exposure to the hazardous hydrogen chloride.
Hydrogen chloride is no
joke.
joke.
Incident was completely preventable. The CSB...
Bro, Catherine just came in here. The first words... This incident was completely preventable. Like, you sons of bitches, what have you done?
This report identifies several critical issues that must be addressed to ensure safe operations. Those include the need for written procedures, control of hazardous energy, greater guidance on simultaneous operations, and improved means of egress.
What did I tell you? It's the rule of three. There's always at least 3 major safety breakdowns or failures that lead up to these incidents. Almost never,
Wacker's
almost never do you see one of these where someone made one dumbass mistake. Most of the time, these systems are built to resist one stupid mistake. Okay. But sometimes, honest to God, I'm trying to think of one. Texas City was multiple. Every time they blow up a refinery, it's multiple. The failure on, I guess you could possibly argue that when they blew up the Deepwater Horizon, technically that was one guy going, we have all this data. It's all this data. And we have all this data that this is not going to be safe. Okay, this is going to be like, please don't. The pressure tests are no good. But we're going to go ahead anyway. So I guess you could put that on one. But truthfully, there were multiple, well more than 3 safety failure signs or failures of decision making that led to that. There was one guy who said, yeah, but we should still do it. So I guess you could kind of say it, but it would be a technicality.
Charleston, Tennessee facility manufactures various silicon-based materials that are used in the production of a variety of products. On November 2nd, 2020, the company initiated a 2-week turnaround of its hydrogen chloride
Oh. Wait. Wait a second. You guys, what is a turnaround? Do we know what a turnaround is? Let's find out. Let's find out what a turnaround is. Let's find out what a turnaround is.
What
this
is
important.
A turnaround? Well, whether you call them shutdowns, outages, or turnarounds, they'll all produce the same results. Turnarounds are scheduled events where an entire process unit of an industrial plant is taken off stream for a scheduled period of time.
So you hear an entire unit of a plant is taken offline for scheduled maintenance. Now, this is important. Megatron would never follow the safety procedures here. But the important thing is that while you have a plant shut down for maintenance operations, there are multiple things you can accomplish. Now, why would I explain this to you instead of allowing her? Good question.
To perform maintenance, inspections, and testing. Once the plant is off stream, the downtime presents an opportunity that can be
an opportunity. Okay.
used to perform debottlenecking, capital project improvements.
Honestly, the debottlenecking is one of my favorite parts when you have a turnaround, because you can relieve a lot of the pressure that's been building up in the system for so long. You have these systems that just have been pumping all of this chemical and material for so long without any sort of a break, and you shut them down finally and you give them a little bit of release. Okay. You debottleneck the system. You find ways for things to flow a little bit better. Think of it like acupuncture for industrial equipment.
Revamps and catalyst regeneration projects. Turnarounds allow for necessary maintenance and the upkeep of
Let me tell you about
operating units.
debottlenecking, all right?
Turnarounds are needed to maintain safe and efficient operations. If you
Hey,
an oil
oh my
refinery,
gosh.
the way
Thank
think
you
of
so
your
much,
car,
Alexis, for
you'll
following.
realize-
I really appreciate you. Welcome very much to the stream. You're welcome anytime. The USCSB, man, the material, we'll get back to it, but it's important we learn about turnarounds.
There are many types of routine maintenance you need to perform on your car to keep it running efficiently. You should get your oil
Oh no, this could happen to you if you don't get your
change
oil
every 2,000
change
miles. You should get new tires every
or new tires. I wish my voice wasn't all screwed.
Well, He-Man, it seems like you didn't get your new tires.
50,000 miles or so, depending
Now
on the
you're
range.
stuck.
Then there's your power steering, your transmission.
I'm sorry, Skeletor is very funny to me.
Air filters, gas
Skeletor and Piccolo are like two of the greatest things in the history of fiction. There really needs to be a fan-made movie from back when he was like King Piccolo and he was a bad guy. And he still wanted to take over. Let's see if I can do it today. All right. She really likes her bunny. She really likes her turtle book and make her bunny go hop hop. Listen, I know that we're going to fight Goku, but we're going to defeat him. I'm tired of Goku's shit. We're going to take him down today.
Yes, we're going to defeat Goku.
Well. What are you talking about over here?
Hey, Vegeta, it sounds like they were trying to beat Goku.
I'm sorry.
And
We're learning about
that's just routine
turnarounds.
Maintenance. What if something malfunctions?
Dude, what if something malfunctions? Okay? So think about this. While you're building up these systems, you have these giant facilities, and you don't want something to break while it's on. So while it's shut down for whatever maintenance, I'm going to replace a couple pipes. You do maintenance on the whole thing, and that's called a turnaround.
Let's say you drive your car for work every day, and that's how you make your living.
Imagine driving your car for work every day. If you're here in LA, I'm sure you know what this is like. If you're Starscream, you just fly.
Yes, Mantra.
When the time comes to make these repairs and
I'm
maintenance
done.
services, not only
wait.
will you be spending money, but you will be losing money since you're not able to use your car for work. Wouldn't this make
Not
you wanna
only would you
carefully
not be
plan
making
what
money,
repairs
you would
make
be
so that you could spend
negative
only what
making
you
money.
needed to spend and lose as little money as possible during that downtime. Now imagine that your car is making you millions of dollars every day.
Dude.
Well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch for one car,
But what if you have lots of cars?
but it isn't a stretch when it comes to a refinery. When a refinery shuts down for repairs, maintenance, and compliance with regulations, there is no
Yes.
production. And that means the refinery is losing money
Yes.
at that time. What happens?
So think of it like you're playing Monopoly, right? Super simple. You're playing Monopoly and you just decide, and you're just not going to roll for 3 turns. And at the end of those 3 turns, you get guaranteed 6s for 2 turns. Okay? That's kind of what this is. Like, you shut down, you do all this maintenance, it takes you time, it costs some money. But when you come out of it, you want to have a better position, right? Because it's going to happen anyway. If this were to be a malfunction, you wouldn't get to roll for 5 turns. You know what I'm saying? And then afterwards, there would be no benefit. You wouldn't get like guaranteed 6s.
to the materials that are
That's
regularly delivered to the refinery? What happens to the other facilities that depend on the oil products that usually come from the refinery?
I didn't even think about the other facilities. See? EPCM PSP here talking about legitimately. Honestly, this may be one of the greatest videos of all time when it comes to process safety, because I've watched it so many times, and I feel like
How
I
many
still don't know what a
workers are needed to
turnaround
perform
is,
the maintenance
but I
and
feel like I'm
repairs?
very
Are
comfortable
there
with the
enough
idea.
qualified workers available to carry out all the needed repairs? Turnarounds are very expensive, both in terms of production that is
Oh,
lost
no.
while the process unit is offline, and also in terms of direct cost for the labor, tools, heavy equipment, and materials used to execute the turnaround.
Did she hear the sounds? She reacted like she reacted like she's hearing the sounds as the. You think there's some fucking producers over there? You think there's a producer who's been? She's like, labors, tools, and he's just doing it, or you think she actually is hearing these sounds?
Turnaround.
Or does, you know what it is? I think just heavy equipment. She's just excited about heavy equipment, dude. Honestly, when you love this industry, you do get excited about heavy equipment.
Tools, heavy equipment, and materials used to execute the turnaround. Turnarounds are the most significant portion of a plant's yearly maintenance budget and can affect the company's bottom line if they are mismanaged.
Do you understand that? How much you could affect the company's bottom line if you mismanage this turnaround?
Turnarounds
Okay.
have unique project management.
In fact, we are about to review a situation in which a turnaround was mismanaged that cost the company a lot of money.
Which make them volatile and challenging. At EPCM PSI, we specialize in project management for turnarounds, as
Listen.
well as capital and routine maintenance.
These guys were clearly not involved when it came to the Wacker Petrochemicals Polysilicon.
Experts in Primavera, the industry standard software for scheduling. We schedule the work to be done through the use of our trademarked dynamic
They must have put a
scheduling
comment there.
methodology called float-based prioritization. Our methodology
She is an expert, by the way. I don't know if you know this. So who is she? Why should you listen to her? Right? Like obviously EPCM, PMP, PSP, these guys, project management specialists. Okay. But why should you listen to her? Is she just an actress? No, she is an expert on float-based prioritization.
Technology has been proven as an effective way to manage turnarounds and any type of outage on time and within budget.
Yeah.
We also plan as
If you're applying for a job in the project management space, on time, under budget, every line. I'll manage the efficient transition of blah, on time, under budget. Manage the rollout of blah, blah, on time, under budget. What does that mean? You overestimate when you're coming up with the cost of these things because everything takes more time. People are fucking stupid. And if everything goes according to plan, hooray. You know what the overpromise, underdeliver? You're screwed. Underpromise, overdeliver, and everyone loves you forever. That's actually what your job is as a project manager. Your whole job as a project manager, just underpromise, overdeliver. Whee! Okay?
estimate and
Let the sales guys sell.
provide cost controls. EPCM PSI's motto is to provide
Like to provide her
solutions and
cost
valued
controls.
service as opposed to simply providing
Stop
results.
that.
EPCM PSI helps you
Get that credit card over here.
success.
You can have two, please. Make yourself at home. All right. Anyway, EPCM PSI. I thought they were PSP. They don't. You know what? I'm not going to question it. All I know is we just learned about turnarounds. Do you understand what turnarounds are now? Maybe, maybe not.
Generation unit to perform routine maintenance as well as
Serious
equipment
business.
upgrades and repairs. To assist with the turnaround, Wacker employed contract workers from multiple companies, including Jake Marshall and Penn Golf.
See, Penn Golf. These motherfuckers are busy playing golf. They're not project managing. They're golfing. Okay, and I don't even know the circus clowns, whatever the other group was, but they didn't call EPCM PSP. That's all I'm saying.
On the morning of November 13th, Wacker issued a work permit to Jake Marshall to perform maintenance on a heat exchanger's vapor out.
Jake Marshall. So it's not a real. It's not like an entity. It's Jake Marshall. Like, okay, you guys know Jake. I mean, you know, obviously it's gonna go fine. It's Jake Marshall working on it. Okay, this isn't just like Jake any guy. This is Jake Marshall. You know what I mean? Like this dude coming in. Well, how would Lindsey Graham say it? We called Jake Marshall. We got Jake Marshall himself in here. He's gonna fix the whole thing. All right. Anyway,
Outlet pipe.
I don't know anything about this outlet pipeline. This doesn't look right.
The work was to be done while hydrogen chloride was actively flowing through the pipe.
Hot work.
Exposure to hydrogen chloride gas can cause injuries, ranging from irritation of the eyes.
Usually, when they give you the symbol of like the hand melting, that's a sign that you don't. Listen, Sam Witwicky, this area's dangerous to your human biology. Try not to get any of the acid on your skin. Here are some goggles.
And lungs to severe burns or death.
I don't know whose skull this is and why this means severe. Oh.
To protect themselves from those chemical hazards, the Jake Marshall
The goggles, they do
contractors
nothing.
wore full-body chemical
They should have given
resistant
him
suits, rubber boots and gloves, and
Yeah.
full-face
Without the
respirators
give me
with
the
acid
suit, I
gas
would have
cartridges. The maintenance took place on the 5th floor of
So the maintenance took place in the sky. Their job, your job, should you choose to accept it, is to fucking climb 5 flights of stairs in full combat space gear, disassemble and replace piping with active
an equipment access structure, which only had one staircase for entry and exit.
There's only
That
one way in
morning,
and out. Don't fuck
contractors
this
from
up.
Penn Golf were also working on the same 5th floor platform. The Penn Golf employees, however, were performing insulation activities that were not expected to involve potential exposure to hydrogen chloride. For their
Installation
installation work,
activities.
the 4 Penn Golf contractors were wearing the minimum personal protective equipment.
See, they're out here fucking golfing. The other dudes, they're wearing, I've got my walking through the surface of the sun-proof suit on. The hydrogen chloride can't define me. And then fucking, you've got Jim Johnny and Jose all over here chilling, and then Big Bob, and they're just wearing what they wore to the fucking bowling alley before their shift. Now they're out here for their shift. And this is suddenly
required by Wacker. Flame-resistant clothing, steel-toe safety boots, as well as safety glasses and hard hats.
Hang on a second here. Do you notice the safety boots look like this guy's been walking through Yellowstone? Stepping on all this.
As well as safety glasses and hard hats. They had escape respirators and safety harnesses in their possession, but were not actively wearing
safety harness like they were going to jump off the edge.
The Jake Marshall contractor's task was to tighten bolts on the heat exchanger's vapor outlet piping in order to minimize leaks. The amount of force required to tighten a bolt is based in part on the materials of construction of the equipment being connected.
Oh, who's got $5 on they over torque these bolts? Oops. You ever seen that video of the guy in the engine? He's using that thing and it's like beep, 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 beep. And then he's just, and the guy's like, yo, what'd you do?
The amount of force is called the torque requirement. The vapor outlet piping included both a nozzle made of graphite and lined piping constructed of carbon steel. In this case, the torque requirement for bolts connecting steel to steel is higher than the torque requirement for bolts connecting steel to graphite, as graphite is a very brittle material. But on the day of the incident, Jake Marshall...
Dude, this is exactly like the human flamethrower they made. The very human design. It's a very human design, and it blows flames directly at the rest area. Remember that video? We watched that where the pressure in like all the tanks was like 125 PSI, but they had one old tank that was like a 90 PSI tank, and they didn't tell the guy. And so he just figured out, whatever, they'll be fine at 110. I'll just push them all to 110. And so he stuck 110 out there, and all of a sudden it wasn't like a huge, it wouldn't have been, even on the news because the pressure safety valve worked, except that pressure safety valve was designed into an outlet that instead of shooting upwards was directed like for some reason they curved it 90 degrees. So let's say this fist, okay, is the area where people go to hang out and have lunch, and this is the outflow valve, right, for the pressure release on this if it fails. And instead of having it pointed up like I don't know why, very human design, they had it like this. So when the system failed safely, it started shooting chemicals out of this towards all the people over here that were just hanging out. And even better, because you can't just have chemicals. Obviously, they lit those chemicals on fire to prevent them from being, released into the environment. So it was really just kind of a flamethrower that shot flames at the area where people hung out to eat lunch, just for a couple minutes, for 3 minutes, 41 seconds until the pressure release event had ended and the tank was back at 90 PSI. All good. We're fine. No big deal. Who designed it like that? I want to talk to this guy. I would like to interview him.
Pipe fitters were not given written specifications.
So they have material that can withstand 15 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, your grandma can generate 15 foot-pounds of torque with a wrench easily. Then they have other ones, 40 foot-pounds of torque. That's pretty legit. That's like you need like a long wrench or like a lot of strength. 40 foot-pounds is pretty decent. Oh, shit. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen.
For every bolt they would tighten. A Jake Marshall journeyman provided an apprentice pipe fitter with a torque wrench set to 40 foot-pounds, which is the setting for tightening the steel-to-steel connection.
Oh, that'd be great. That worked.
After
probably
tightening
worked
the
perfect.
bolts requiring 40 foot-pounds of torque, the pipe fitter then used the torque wrench to tighten bolts on the steel-to-graphite connection.
No.
The manufacturer recommended torque value for those bolts is only 15 foot-pounds. As a result, the bolts were inadvertently over-tightened. At 10:04 a.m., the excess torque applied to those bolts caused the heat exchanger to crack. Hazardous hydrogen chloride released to the atmosphere between the workers and the only available staircase. Within 15 seconds, a large hydrogen chloride...
Now, you might be thinking, why wasn't there a second staircase? Well, they weren't planning on shooting hot chloride at people. Hydrogen chloride usually stays in the pipes. But today, they tried something new. And there was another group up here that apparently had jump harnesses or whatever they called them. Like, that seems like a good idea. Like, oh, I can't get to the stairs. Whee! But imagine, this is like a movie. This shit just starts, oh no, good thing we're wearing our suits. And then you see these 4 people like, ah. And you're like, oh shit, we got to get him down. The only staircase is blocked. Oh my God.
A cloud filled the area, preventing the workers on the platform from seeing their surroundings.
This is the day you're hoping for a good breeze. You know what I'm talking about?
The fitter quickly moved away from the release.
Yeah.
As he did, his chemical suit became entangled on surrounding equipment and tore open.
Yo. Oh my God. Panic sets in and you just fuck up on a level. This would, on like a normal day, doing something dumb like this would be fine. Today, this dude just outbraked himself.
This exposed him to hydrogen chloride.
Yeah, he got himself outbrooked. He got outbrooked.
He bumped into equipment on the platform, which knocked off his...
Homeboy is... Okay, so you would do the same thing the moment your suit ripped. Like, if you're already panicking and then you rip your suit, it's over. You are... I got to get out of here. My suit's open now. You're probably trying to hold the suit. And he's probably looking down at it, trying to see how bad it is. And this dumbass then jumped into a piece of equipment, knocked the thing protecting his face and breathing off. This is, oof. This is not good.
His respirator. Although he was
not where you want to be.
Closest to the staircase, without a respirator, he could not pass through the hazardous cloud to exit. Instead, he moved to the opposite side of the platform where the other contractors had been working. 3 of the 4 Penn Gulf employees put on their escape respirators. But without chemical suits, they were unable to walk through the cloud.
So they have that's good. So they have those like little fish bowls. So it's like Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, they have those little like helmets. Just anyone has a space helmet now, and it doesn't matter anymore if you're in space because you just have a little bubble that goes bloop, and you're just safe. As dumb as that is, whatever. These are rescue respirators. They have them. That's why it looked like the dude had a little bit of like a, like, hang on, I'll show you. So it looked like dude had like a fishbowl on his head here. See here, they show it. It's not well modeled in lit in this situation, but he's wearing basically a bag over his head with a little bit of oxygen source.
4 Penn Gulf employees put on their escape respirators. But without chemical suits, they were unable to walk through the cloud to reach the staircase located on the opposite side of the platform. Hey, turn it off! Instead,
they're like, hey, can you guys turn off that machine? Did anyone bring a walkie-talkie? I didn't hear them list walkie-talkies in their equipment.
They attempted to climb down piping on the side of the structure.
Shit.
It was approximately 70 feet high.
Yo,
While
this guy's...
climbing down, all 3 fell to the ground. 1 worker was fatally injured from the fall.
Oh, dude, not one of them made it? That sucks. Oh, that sucks. I would have thought they'd been like, oh, like one of them or all 3 of them like made it down. Because sometimes that's what, you know, you get in these disasters. Something happens, goes wrong. You know, you got to keep moving. You got to keep trying to get away. And the people like that keep going escape. There's crazy stories from Deepwater Horizon, stuff like that. But man, very rarely does just staying in one place when something like this is happening save your life. If you're lost though, like if you're lost in like the ocean or like lost on an island or lost in the forest or something like that, then you don't want to go fucking around just like bouncing around someplace or screwing around in a mountain, climbing up and down forests and stuff. Generally you want to stay where you are. And now you have like the satellite stuff. That's way cool, man. That's another cool thing that's on that Elon Musk. So he gave us Starlink, and I'm not saying he designed these all himself. I'm not saying like, oh, Elon Musk came down and was like, I gift you these and I would like them to work well. No, he enabled. So I don't like electric cars. I think they're dumb as a first choice of car. I think you should have an electric car maybe as a second car if you want one. They're not great for the planet. The materials that go into them are way worse than the materials that go into a regular car. And the electricity that's generated for them is generated by coal plants, and wind energy is so stupid and unuseful. And hydroelectric's pretty good, but you have to build dams and stuff. Nuclear energy is the best. Nuclear is great because it's just steam power that with renewable heat. Like, it's the coolest, safest energy on the planet. Solar's whatever. Solar's fine for small scale. There's nothing wrong with solar. It's just not very efficient yet. I think you go out somewhere in the desert and like glass an area of the desert with high heat, and then you have like a big reflective patch. And instead of reflecting light onto molten salt like they do in Las Vegas currently at those power stations with the mirrors, you would just use the mirror. You'd use the surface of the ground and to hit like the solar panels like a second time. Out in the desert somewhere where no one's going to mind and it's not going to matter. And then you don't have to replace the materials as much, because that's what the problem with molten salt is, that everything that uses heat that's like a laser beam from those mirrors, it needs to be really, really strong. And we have to replace those materials a lot. And so that's where you get into like why it's expensive. Even if they work on a fusion reactor and fusion reactors start working, they're going to be so expensive for like a long time that it'll be prohibitive to use them for actual electricity generation. Now, you have to get through that. Just like 3D printing a house looks like shit right now, and 3D printed houses, you're like, why would I live in this garbage? And you're like, oh, the military and to prevent homelessness. Like, that's two great applications of the current technology. And then they're going up to the moon and using the lasers to melt regolith into actual like hardened material. That's really smart. That's a good idea. That's probably the future. If you wanted to get in on the future of building in space, if you think that's something that I would go there and get involved in that space right now, of autonomous rovers that can burn materials already on the ground and use them to make something, use them to make, with materials on the ground, use them to make hardened materials, use them to make different things for the environment. Sorry, someone's at the door. Let's see who it is. Must be Amazon, whatever. Anyway, I'm just saying that I think that's a good place to be. Man, my stupid voice. Anyway, we're here to talk about Wacker Polysilicon. Just saying, fusion electricity probably one day will get to be useful. Nuclear energy is useful right now. Fission's great. Fission could be used for anything. You could even make small scale fission. They probably won't. Maybe they shouldn't. Just because decay is, nasty. You don't want that. But realistically, most of the problems involved with nuclear energy that we have in our heads from the 70s and stuff, those are all gone. Fukushima was an old plant. If it was a modern plant, that wouldn't have happened. There was also a lot of things we learned that basically prevent that from ever happening again. And it could have been managed better. So anyway, we're going back to Wacker. These guys are trapped. 3 dudes tried to climb down. None of them made it. That's really sad. One of them had fatal injuries from the fall. So that sounds like 2 of them might have survived.
And 2 sustained serious injuries.
Yeah, I would say from
the
50
remaining
feet.
Penn Gulf worker was able to put on her escape respirator with help from a Jake Marshall worker, who, wearing chemical-resistant PPE, also attempted to shield her from the hazardous hydrogen
Hell
chloride.
yeah. Yo, okay, Jake, this is why people hired Jake Marshall, because Jake Marshall doesn't give up. He brought an apprentice that day that fucked up, okay? But Jake himself shielded the final employee with his body due to wearing PPE that could shield them from the actual chemical and help that person, the one who didn't climb over the edge. They left her behind. That means all 3. That means Big Bob, Jim, and fucking whatever the other guy, and Jim Jack, both, or Jim and Johnny. Yeah, that's right. So Jim, Johnny, and Big Bob all climbed down, all fell. Probably Big Bob might be the one that died from that fall. I'm sorry to say. He reached terminal velocity faster. And they left Jose behind, dude. They just left her behind. She's chilling. And the guy from, let's say, himself, we'll call him, Jake Marshall, ran over, put her hood on, and shielded her with his body. Can we take a minute to say hell yes for Jake Marshall?
The dangerous release continued for approximately 3 minutes until all the gaseous hydrogen chloride had escaped from the
so they didn't turn it off. That just
After the release stopped,
It's
the
just
3
out.
Jake Marshall workers and 1 Penn Gulf worker used the staircase to evacuate the area
Bro.
and safely reach the ground.
he saved her life. Is that what you're telling me?
The Chemical Safety Board launched an investigation and found
That's wild. That's
4
badass.
key safety issues contributed to the incident.
That's
They
so
are
badass.
written procedures, control of hazardous energy, simultaneous operations, and means of egress. The first safety issue concerns written procedures. OSHA's Process Safety Management Standard and the EPA's Risk Management Plan rule required Wacker to implement written operating and maintenance procedures for covered processes and equipment. These should have included clear instructions for how to tighten the different types of connections present on the heat exchanger vapor outlet piping. But the CSB found that Wacker did not have a written procedure to execute the task. Instead, Wacker relied on verbal instructions and the piping manufacturer's equipment manual to communicate the...
So what is the problem here? Is that this was not properly explained to the technicians doing the work. 15 foot-pounds, 40 foot-pounds. What I would do, I'd have a little tag. I'd have a little tag here. I would tag this that says 15 foot-pound. And this one would just, I don't know, you can't tag that one, so then it's 40, whatever. But if you find a way to tag them. Honest to God, find a way to tag them. Humans don't need to be able to screw this up.
Torque requirements to the Jake Marshall contractors. The manual, however, did not include the torque requirements for the bolts.
Let's see what the USCSB finds could have prevented this, because honestly, they're
were eventually over-tightened. Those requirements were included in the manufacturer's drawing of the heat exchanger, which the Jake Marshall pipe fitters did not have in their possession at the time of the work. The CSB learned that the correct torque requirements were verbally communicated by the Wacker permit authorizer to the Jake Marshall foreman. The foreman then relayed the torque requirements to the journeyman pipe fitter, who finally communicated the information to the apprentice, who ultimately tightened the bolts. But the lack of clear written information and reliance on verbal instructions increased the likelihood of...
Everybody knew. Jake Marshall himself said it to the apprentice, but the apprentice just didn't understand exactly what that meant and was allowed to cause a situation. I'm very glad that none of them that stayed up top, I guess, got hurt. Big Bob, Jim, and Johnny, obviously, they couldn't have been shielded. Their bodies couldn't have been shielded by Jake. He was busy shielding Jose.
Miscommunication and misunderstanding of the task and precautions.
Look, they even modeled like the road in, like tailings piles. They modeled like the forest. Honestly, this is probably exactly what the site looks like.
Written procedures, which consolidate information required to safely execute a given task into easy-to-understand instructions, are a critical tool for ensuring safe operations and maintenance activities. Had Wacker used all relevant sources of information to develop written procedures for tightening each type of connection on the vapor outlet piping, it is likely that the contractors would have known about the specific torque requirements, which would have prevented this incident.
So basically, in their instructions, it should have said, when tightening the top bolts, 40 foot-pounds of torque is the only acceptable foot-pounds of torque. When tightening the bolts connecting the carbon pipe on the bottom fitting, seen here with a picture, 15 foot-pounds of torque is all you should do. Please don't do more than that. That will cause a problem.
As a result, the CSB recommended that Wacker Polysilicon develop detailed maintenance procedures for torquing activities.
Listen, guys, we're going to be talking about torque this week. Yeah, we talked about torque last week too. Now, it's very important that you understand torque. There was an incident here recently. I don't know if you guys know, caused by torque. That was the conversations here for 3 months.
The second safety issue identified by the CSB is control of hazardous energy. The CSB found that Wacker had procedures in place for performing work on equipment that contained hazardous energy, such as pressurized chemicals.
Ooh,
these procedures...
That's a cool term, yo. Hazardous energy. Oh, Megatron, you and your hazardous energy are at an end. Today we shall put a stop to you. You think you can stop me, Prime? Ha 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 ha. Yeah, dude, I can't get there all the way with my voices today. I could probably do the old Megatron. I wonder, hang on. Because he's no, I can't. I can't get the closure. Excuse me. Anyway.
Features include
That's really cool.
Included safety precautions, such as developing an energy isolation plan, wearing PPE,
Hazardous
and
energy.
barricading the area to prevent access by workers not involved in the operation. But even though the heat exchanger vapor outlet piping contained pressurized hazardous chemicals, the company did not apply those procedures to the torquing operation.
Damn.
That
So
is
they knew about
because
this.
the
and they
torquing
fucked up.
operation did not involve the intentional opening of the process equipment. As a result,
Just so you know, when you guys were doing this maintenance, we did not include instructions for an uncontrolled release of fucking.
Wacker did
Come
not
on.
develop an energy isolation plan, nor did they perform a risk analysis to determine whether the torquing could be safely performed on equipment in operation.
The way they show him
Also,
handing
Wacker
that
did
off,
not
dude, like
barricade
multiple
the area
times,
to
like,
be
yo,
safe
it wasn't me.
analysis.
Hang on.
Nor did they perform a risk analysis. Did they perform a risk? Did they perform a risk analysis? Did they perform a risk analysis? Analysis to determine whether the torquing could be safely performed on equipment in operation. Also,
man.
Wacker did not barricade the area to prevent
No
other workers,
barricades,
such as
these
the
sons
Penn
of
Golf
bitches.
installation team, from being in the area when the work occurred.
Oh, like
Companies
because
and
it was
workers
hot
should
work.
always assess and address the risk of performing maintenance on equipment containing hazardous materials, not only when they plan to intentionally open piping or equipment, but also when equipment could be unintentionally opened,
That
like what
makes
happened
sense.
at Wacker when workers inadvertently
See,
damaged
hot work.
fragile
If there's
graphite
if there's risk of releasing some sort of chemical that could cause a problem, treat it like it's going to happen. Prevent any damage to anyone if it does. That's what they're saying. Which
Had
you do
Wacker
that,
adequately
right? That makes
assessed the
sense.
risk, they could have identified several ways to either prevent the incident or lessen its severity, such as through energy isolation, PPE requirements, or by restricting
Yeah, it's true.
non-essential
If they were
personnel
all wearing
from
the
work
surface
area.
of the sunproof suits, they would have all been
Therefore,
fine.
the
They wouldn't have had to
CSB
shield
recommended that
Jose with their
Wacker
body.
develop policy requirements to ensure that torquing activities performed on equipment containing hazardous energy are performed
Your
safely,
torquing
and
activities
document
are at
these
an end,
requirements and
Megatron.
procedures.
We are here
The
to
third
regulate
safety
the
issue
force and
discovered by the
foot-pound.
CSB is simultaneous operations. Simultaneous operations, or SIMOPS, is defined as a situation in which two or more operations occur together at the same time
SIMOPS?
and place. The
they
simultaneous
occur
work performed
during
by
the
Jake
turnaround?
Marshall and Penn Golf personnel on the platform was a type of SIMOPS. The CSB found that Wacker did not have a policy or procedure for evaluating SIMOPS.
Those SIMOPS, dude. Oh,
Such a policy would require a hazard assessment to identify risks
Watch out for the
introduced
SIMOPS.
by the simultaneous work. Instead, Wacker
Simultaneous
did not perform a
loving,
hazard
baby.
assessment and allowed the four Penn
Simultaneous
Golf
loving,
workers
oh.
to be on the fifth floor platform without
we're gonna be
chemical
performing some
protective
simultaneous
PPE,
work today.
while the
Yeah,
more
I
hazardous
hope you watch
torquing
our
work was
PPE.
also occurring. Ultimately, the four Penn Golf workers were unnecessarily exposed to the hydrogen chloride release.
We're calling
causing
this
three
movie
of them to take
unnecessarily
drastic actions
exposed.
to escape.
It begins at a
Companies
chemical
should
plant
always
and ends
consider
with
how
one
SIMOPS
hot
could impact
loving on
workers and
all of the
operations.
stairs and a
SIMOPS
beautiful
should be
smoke
identified
screen
and
provided
controlled
by the
by conducting a
environment.
hazard assessment before starting
Is it
work,
hazardous?
and steps should be taken to
Only in
prevent
real life,
any hazardous
not in our
interactions.
movie.
As a result, the CSB recommended that Wacker develop and implement a formalized SIMOPS program
Yeah, you
addressing
fuckers.
co-located work tasks.
See, they went with the
CSB
sign on
also
instead of the
determined
sign
that
off,
industry
and I think that was their real
regarding
problem.
SIMOPS has largely been restricted to offshore processing, such as oil and gas drilling.
Oil and gas drilling, where again, making a mistake can cause everyone to die. They were like, hey, if you're gonna do two things at once, you should try to prevent that from causing an issue.
In fact,
They didn't think
during
about
its
that here this
investigation, the CSB was unable to identify any codes,
They could've
standards, or
Legit, just put a ladder from the top floor to the first floor, so in case of emergencies, you could just climb down a ladder on one side, and then it wouldn't be attached to the ground, so you wouldn't have to worry about kids climbing up the ladder. But no, they didn't do that here. They were like, climb down the pipes, you pussies.
regulations.
All three of them
specifically
fell?
relating
That's
to the
crazy. I would've thought one
identification
would make
and
it.
control of SIMOPS for maintenance activities conducted on stationary source chemical processes.
The CSB has investigated at least 5 other incidents involving SIMOPS, all of which led to the injuries or deaths of individuals not involved in the
Bro,
event
I
that
hate
started
doing
the
that.
incident.
I hate buttoning that fucking button on the tie, like the one behind the tie. I hate that. I'm a big dude. And so like, I don't know, my neck is bigger than like traditional. I got big neck energy, you know. Some people got big back, I got big neck. And my big neck don't fit inside that. I'm like, even when I was getting married, I had to tie that little bitch and I was all night, and I had a custom ass shirt. It's a motherfucker, dude. I hate that stupid button. Let's be honest.
To prevent other needless tragedies, the CSB believes that the lack of regulation and guidance surrounding SIMOPS is a safety gap that must be rectified.
I would say
In its report, the CSB recommended that OSHA promulgate a standard or modify existing.
here we get into why the USCSB is a useful government organization, and fucking OSHA is talked about the way OSHA is talked about, because the USCSB knows exactly what went wrong here. They went fucking, nobody explained to these dumbass monkeys that they shouldn't turn the fucking 15 foot-pounds of torque with 40 foot-pounds of torque. It could cause an issue. Instead of that, they just said, fucking go. You know, it's you, Jake. We trust you. Obviously, Mr. Marshall, but I don't know about the rest of these guys, but if you trust them, we trust them. No, they have to recommend to the OSHA. They have to go, hey, OSHA, could you please implement this standard? Could you please require companies to use a SIMOP like, you know, we use offshore? Could you please, it's going to save lives. It's going to save lives. This is exactly like when the fucking FAA can do whatever they want, and the U.S. Transit Safety Board, okay, the Transit Safety Board came out and said, these DC-10s are fucking stupid. These doors keep opening. There's obviously a problem. And the FAA went, we really like fucking McDonnell Douglas. We're not going to shut them down. We're not going to stop people from flying in them while investigating. And 3 more fucking crashes happened, and people had to die before they fucking came out and went, okay, yeah, there's a problem. And yeah, we knew about the problem, and we should have fucking stopped this sooner, but we didn't. And that's dumb. That's really stupid. Okay. It's monumentally stupid. And it leads to the lives of people. And so these stupid corporations taking people's lives in the Fight Club style, well, you know, it's going to kill less people and it's going to cost us to fix it bullshit. It's time for that shit to end. Okay. And having to ask OSHA to implement this. The USCSB understands the issue better than anyone, way better than OSHA. And they're far better positioned to implement a standard because they're specifically the Chemical Safety Board. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration is a group of people who are responsible for the wide-ranging safety of all work operations throughout the United States. Why do you want one giant, massive bureaucracy with the power to regulate all industry? It's fucking stupid. Let the USCSB regulate the chemical industry because everyone there is an expert on what the fuck was wrong. And then you just make sure that you can't leave the USCSB and join these companies. You're not allowed to work at any of these companies you regulated ever. That's just part of working at the US. If you want to work for the government, for these bodies, you're not allowed to ever go work for these companies that you regulated. Okay? That's the rule. You don't like that? Don't work there. You know who's going to work there? People who actually give a shit. You know why? Because they're not going to care. And there's going to be people who go work at these companies because they want to change things from the inside. And then there's going to be people who work at these companies because they want to make a lot of money and they believe in the value of the company and they believe in what the company's doing. But there always needs to be somebody who is there at the end of the day. If you ever watched Wolf of Wall Street, the hero of that movie is the agent who investigates him. Okay? The guy at the FBI who fucking puts him in jail and takes away all his shit for his fucking crimes. Dennett. He goes home at the end of the day on the subway. And he does have to go, oh, I'm taking my subway home and I'm going to go to my apartment. I'm going to go just live like a normal person. And I'm not going to have fun coupons and all these beautiful women all over and lobster and all this shit. That's not what I want. I want truth, justice, and the American way, and I'm very happy with my life. And he's the hero of that movie, okay? It's a fun movie. It's very funny, and there's great moments, and they really make you like a guy who's kind of a scum artist, you know, scam lord. Yeah, I mean scum artist, but Belfort, whatever the fuck. Anyway, the point of that is the hero of the movie is the FBI agent. It's not Belfort, but he is made to look like the protagonist of the movie, and he is the protagonist of the movie for sure. The hero is the antagonist, so it's a story told from the villain's point of view. It's very much like Wicked, but way better. I would argue Wolf of Wall Street puts Wicked in the ground every day of the week. Wicked, the beginning of the girl boss. No, all bad female characters are actually not bad. They're just misunderstood, and it ruined all villains forever because people can't get the fucking shit out of their mind that sometimes people just are bad and they like being bad. And then suddenly we watched Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, one of the greatest movies ever made, one of the best movies to come out in the last 20 years. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish has a character in it who's a bad guy who just loves being a bad guy for the bad guy's sake. And he just knows he's evil. He doesn't give a shit. And he's one of the best characters in the whole movie. Everyone who watches it loves it because it's really funny to see a fucking villain just hamming it up being a villain. It's so cool.
Existing standards.
But this is horseshit. They have to go to the OSHA and be like, please, OSHA, do this. And OSHA says, shut the fuck up. We're busy fucking these companies. They're busy sucking our dicks right now and giving us all this extra money off the side and telling us what to invest in. Of course, I'm not going to regulate these fucks.
Employers to ensure the coordination of SIMOPs involved.
And maybe OSHA wants to do good, but again, they have to regulate every single work operation in the United States. There is no way they're going to be able to employ enough people to do that effectively and accurately. And you're not going to want them to because they would employ so many people. They would be so powerful that bribing OSHA becomes the number one investment to make when you run a company because it's way cheaper to bribe OSHA than to give a shit about the regulations. And that is the problem with over-regulating through large bureaucracies. You need to have small, specific regulators that are overseen by bodies of elected people. If elected officials oversee all these bodies, they don't have to worry about going through OSHA and figuring out what the fuck OSHA is doing wrong. They go to the USCSB and figure specifically for chemical companies, what are you guys doing the fuck wrong? And when I put this stuff out there, it seems to take a couple of years sometimes, but all my ideas get adopted eventually by the people who are in the places to implement them. So I'm telling you guys right now, just do that. You want to fix overregulation. You want to fix these industries. You want to let businesses get back to business. Get rid of these massive overarching enforcement bureaus. Bring enforcement down to like the police level where it's local enforcement on these companies by specific industry regulators. They're never allowed to work for the companies they regulate or the industries they regulate. Give them pensions, make them good government jobs so that people who actually give a shit about this and are passionate, people who are autistic about chemicals but don't want to just make money, they're autistic about preventing people from dying for dumb stuff, then let them work for companies that have that ability. That's all I'm saying, okay? So you want the solution to OSHA and the EPA and all this stuff, the FDA, you bring that regulation down to a smaller level and you enforce it directly on certain goods. And you come up with a fucking cereal authority and a grain authority and a dairy council and all this stuff. And they're just smaller regulations that have less ability to be bribed and change whole industries. And you just have easier ways to regulate them because then direct oversight by congressional officials can be had because they can just go, oh, I'm going to go talk to the USCSB because this is an issue specific to chemicals. And I'm going to go talk to the Chemical Safety Board. And whatever the Chemical Safety Board recommends, then that's what's going to get implemented for a fix on what they're doing. And if it's not worth doing, and these companies want to lobby us and come to us and explain why those regulations are not good, we'll put it to a vote. And in the counties where these things happen, we can have it local votes. You can have federal votes. It's easy. Just let people vote on this shit. People are sick and tired of not being able to vote on things that affect them. You want to be a NIMBY? The problem is these not in my backyard bastards are always voting for shit that doesn't matter, and they have no say over the stuff that does. If you could vote to just go, oh, we do want more nuclear power. I've already explained that too. You want to fix nuclear? Dude, the Bitcoin enabled everything. You digital currencies enable everything. You fork Bitcoin, you create a coin, call it Power Coin or whatever the fuck you want. And you form a company around this, you form a charter, you make it so that it's not a scam, right? You go, okay, here's the goal, here's the business plan. Business plan is we're trying to raise $50 billion. We want to raise $50 billion to build a new nuclear power plant and operate it and give us operating costs for the next 5-10 years. The potential profits from operating the plant are thus. So everyone who can buy, we're going to have 50 billion shares of this company, and you can buy one coin for $1, or you can one coin for $100, and we're going to have 500, you're going to have 5 billion shares. However you want to regulate it, you can come up with a number. And then every single person who wants to be part of that and fund that can just do it. And I have $10 to send, I'll send $10. And then I own part of the power plant in my power coin. And the value of that is a dividend that comes to all the holders of that coin from the profits of that power station. So once it's working and running and people are there and it's providing energy and people are paying for it, then that money that goes to profit above the operating cost goes back to the people who still hold those coins. The best part about that is if I don't want to hold my coin anymore and I go, oh, hey, this coin I bought for $1 is worth $2 now. And because of the potential profits over the next year of holding this, or it's worth $10 now because people know they can get paid $1 every month from the dividend, then I can sell that coin for direct cash and it's a fungible asset. And then if I want to just buy more of those coins, to buy more assets, to buy more shares of the power plant, I can pay what people are asking for those coins. And if they want to say the lowest fucking ask for those coins out there is $5 a coin, but I want to own more of the power plant, I got to pay $5 a coin. And all of a sudden, the public has now just not only funded, but is providing the full operating capacity and the stock market to fund operations and investment in the community of this asset. And it's all done by just fucking having a digital currency. It is the most elegant, beautiful solution to these problems. You want an earthquake-proof Los Angeles? Then all the buildings that want to participate in this operation fucking set up a coin, and they get everyone to fund it. And the rich people who live in these buildings can all buy these coins. And then it can be a one-time funding where the coin's value is going to go to zero. But once it's funded, that coin is used to fund the operation of improving those buildings. And then you have now, if you want to talk about that, if you want to get to that level and we get to that future, now you start talking to legislators about coming up with bonds that can be sold. So city bonds, government bonds that can now back those operations. So instead of an asset like investment on a building that now goes away, that bond could be do you understand? That bond could be issued for the value of the building after appreciation for 30 years and the improvements that you're doing. So now you have an asset that's now valued at the improvement scale, but not right away. You have to hold it for a number of years until the bond matures at the new expressed value. And what that does is it prevents people from investing in a building at the current value and then losing all their money when that value on the building goes down, because now they're able to commoditize that building and spread off that risk into a bond that is awarded to them because of public participation in that funding. So it's not everybody, but it's places that are funded by public interest to prevent the public from suffering in the event of a devaluation to the market. You could even do that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm a much more free market guy than to do that, but these digital currencies enable you to do all kinds of really cool stuff like that with such little crap and red tape in the way. So fix these government bodies, make them smaller, give them the regulatory capacity of a smaller value, and give them direct oversight by Congress. Easy done. Boom.
Involving multiple work groups, including contractors. The agency also recommended that the Center for Chemical Process Safety develop and publish a safety product on safe work practices.
To be fair, if I wanted to go into all of that, and I wanted to just kind of expound on on my point, I should have used this as my background, because something about it just really drives home a feeling of expertise in the subject. And so anyway, that's how you fix regulatory bodies. That's how you fix large problems with red tape for funding things. You want to get nuclear plants built. That's how you can get them done in a couple of years without politicians even being involved. Wouldn't that be nice?
Practices, including detailed and practical guidelines for evaluating SIMOPS. Finally, the last safety issue identified by the CSB is means of egress. The CSB learned that Wacker performed a process hazard analysis 3 months
No
before
ladders.
the incident,
Big
which
issue,
identified the
no
need for a
ladders.
ladder
Not one,
or some
not a single
additional
ladder.
means of egress on the equipment access structure in case a hydrogen chloride release blocked workers from accessing the stairs.
Guys, I just
Prior
thought
to
of
the
something.
incident,
What if one day there's a release that traps people upstairs and they can't get down?
multiple employees also discussed concerns with Wacker management on the need for a secondary exit on the structure. But the CSB found that Wacker did not take any action to address these concerns before the incident.
Oh, so they were advised prior to the incident of, hey, what do we do in case we get stuck up there? And they were like, I don't know, fucking die.
The CSB interviews with Wacker
You're going
employees
to die. That's what you're going
indicated
to
a
do, Mr.
perception
Bond.
among the
You're going to
workers
scare people
that
to death.
management deferred employee concerns because Wacker management understood the building to be designed per code. As a result, 7 workers
was designed to code. You will be fine. If you needed a second exit, it would have been in the code, and it is not. And so you get no second exit. You get no staircase. You get no ladder. Get up there and fix the fucking pipes.
were present on the 5th floor platform
Thanks, Wacker.
during the toxic release, with blocked stairs as the only point of egress.
While building codes are an important
Can't
foundation
believe
in
all three of them
design,
fell, dude.
they do not necessarily consider the specific hazards posed by a given process. Companies should prioritize the implementation of PHA findings and employee input to
PHA
control
findings.
hazards identified by those closest and most familiar with the facility and operations.
The CSB learned that Wacker
I don't know why, but
designed the
suddenly I
equipment
understood him
access
better.
structure with a single point of egress based on building code requirements for an unoccupiable equipment platform, and were not required to add an additional means of egress. But these codes do not address
They're way up
scenarios
there.
like the ones at Wacker.
Look,
where
there's a
elevated
ladder. They
equipment
couldn't make that go to the
platforms are
ground.
used for accessing equipment containing materials that pose
That
physical
sucks.
and health hazards.
When
The
you look at
absence of
this, like,
regulatory guidance and standards on means of egress.
so let's think about this. These guys tried to climb over here and down. Like, there's really nowhere. So they had to go here, and then they basically just fell. They probably tried to, like, swing in. I mean, that would have been the play, is while you're holding on here, you kind of swing in and land here and fall onto this gantry. And then from there, you get up and you basically do it again. And then you do it one more time. And then from there, you can probably get to the stairs.
Absence of regulatory guidance and standards on means of egress from open-air industrial structures
Was there one that had a
directly
better
contributed to
outside
the
view?
severity of
Let's
this incident,
see.
and we believe companies need stronger guidance on this issue. Our investigation found that it has been nearly 50 years since another safety organization, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH, issued a publication describing these gaps in guidance for worker egress from elevated
Good old
workstations.
NIOSH.
NIOSH had called for specific codes and standards to address these egress issues in 1975, but these concerns have not yet been addressed.
So, NIOSH, the National Institutes of Operational Safety and Health, another group who has no regulatory capacity, issued a finding that would have solved this fucking problem in 1975. But these goddamn companies didn't want to spend the money, and the fucking OSHA is too busy dealing with the shit they've been trying to get to for 30 years in their fucking backlog because they're too big and there's too much to regulate. So they couldn't get this shit done, and nobody made the change that would have cost these people whatever insignificant amount of funds to put a stupid ladder on the outside of this stupid building. And these people could have all escaped safely, and Jake would not have had to defend Jose with his body to save her life in this event. And the other 3 idiots that climbed over and didn't make it down, instead of just having a way off, call them idiots. I just say that they're not stupid because they fell. Obviously, they were panicking. They're not as bad as the apprentice who panicked like a fucking idiot and ripped his suit, knocked off his mask. Like, that's obviously the dumbest person here. He's also the person who caused the incident. So let's just say that that apprentice was not having a good day. And maybe he's the smart guy, but he's not having a good day. Anyway.
Therefore, the CSB made recommendations to the International Code Council and the National Fire Protection Association to amend their codes to address conditions.
They're going around begging organizations to amend their codes to force these fucking companies to do something. Meanwhile, they had the solution all along, and they couldn't force anyone to implement that because they needed the International Code Council or the Fire Protection Association to change their codes.
That may
Let me guess.
require multiple means of egress
They
from
didn't.
elevated equipment platforms used for accessing equipment containing materials that pose physical
That
and
seems
health hazards.
really
What should have
reasonable.
been straightforward maintenance by two separate groups of workers
Yo, they brought her
turned
back.
deadly because of several
Carolyn.
serious safety issues. The CSB believes that our findings and recommendations will address the issues found at Wacker and prevent another needless tragedy. Thank you for watching this CSB safety video.
Thank you, Carolyn.
For more
So there you go. The Wacker chemical release caused by one person having a real bad day and not being properly prevented from being stupid. Now, yes, they were told don't use 40 foot-pounds of torque there, use 15. Apparently, it wasn't clear enough because they then used 40 foot-pounds of torque on the 15. They cracked the carbon container then cracked and exploded, and you got the release. Well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It was awesome to see the new Wacker chemical release video. We learned about turnarounds. We learned about the importance of the precision during a turnaround to prevent lost time incidents and prevent spending a lot of money. During this turnaround, they actually should have shut down the plant, and it would have been a turnaround. This was a hot work where you're just continuing to work in an area where you may be exposed to conditions that would cause damage or explosions. Hot work might, let's be honest, hot work may mean specifically danger of explosion while you work, but I feel like hot work is a perfect catch-all term for anything that's like, hey, you could release chemicals while you're doing this. You could blow this place up. You could cause a release of any sort of thing while you're doing this. That's hot work. You're working in a hot environment where the machines are hot because they're running. Cold work would obviously be on something that, the machines are off. They're cold. It makes sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. I don't know if it's the official term for anything except in like welding and whatnot, but I called it hot work. There you go. Thank you so much. Awesome to see you today. I wish I could play you out with my traditional thing, but my soundboard's broken. I'm going to fix that, and I'll see you on the next stream. All right. It's cool. And you can get back to reality in 3, 2, 1. Ferc Polo out.